All right, so apparently we're going to have a hot summer, if this is anything to go by. So we're trying out what it sounds like with the AC running. Hopefully the audio isn't too bad. Okay, so it seems like, don't glitch on me. Don't freak out, computer. Please don't freak out. I need you functional. You're my one shot at this. So my goal here is to see how much I can recoup off of what I've lost from the other computer. And I feel like it's not a total loss. So some of the things that I have purchased, theoretically, I have infinite digital rights to download. So I'm able to go back through some of my accounts. That's the hard part. But I'm able to go back through my accounts and re-download those onto a new machine. So I'm looking at mainly recovering a lot of lost purchased stuff. But one or two of them may be difficult because the access to the accounts that let me get them are also lost. And the systems are not letting me gain access. So I'm struggling a little bit with that. But hopefully by the end of the week, I will have figured out how to regain access to most all of the things that I need to regain access to. I think overall, I should be able to regain those things, or at least the most important aspects. So like the editing software that I use, OBS, the writing programs that I use, a lot of that stuff is open source. It's free software that I can download, and it's done through donation support. So I can reclaim a lot of my programs. I think at this rate, going through and trying to figure out what I've lost would take more effort than is necessary. Really, I think it's going to come down to finding out through trial and error what I'm missing. So instead of going like building an extensive list of saying like, okay, let's track down all the things we're going to have lost, instead, just start doing creative projects and then going like, I think I had something that made this easier, or something to that effect, and then going like, oh, right, that was lost in that process. It's, instead of trying to rebuild the junk drawer. So instead of trying to rebuild the junk drawer, I need to look at it more along the lines of starting over from scratch, but having the ability to backlink to a few things, especially like I said, a lot of the software that I use for editing and recording is pretty much free. So I haven't really lost that. Audacity, HitFilm, what's the OBS, Linux Music Maker. Those are all software pieces that I can do for free. And so I should be able to reacquire those and use them for what I need. There's a screen captured piece of software that I think I should be able to reacquire for free. And then after that, it's really just about backtracking and remembering what projects I was doing, and that some of that's recorded in the videos that I shot. So I can go back and rewatch the discussion of some of my projects and sort of recoup some of that lost information. And from there, I get the chance to sort of rebuild those things, maybe even better this time. But there's still going to be a noticeable absence of certain things that's going to periodically have me just kind of not quite break down, but just kind of like, oh, I lost that and I don't have the chance to get that back. It's probably over the next 6 months going to keep hitting me. Now, as far as so that kind of alleviates a lot of the pain of what was lost, at least for right now. I had a metric crap ton of source visual resources. So like looking up images for inspiration for creating things, I'm just never going to get those back. I'm never going to get those back. But hopefully going forward, I have enough to deal with that it's not an absence that's heavily felt. But in the meantime, I've spent a little time today. I mean, I worked today, so I didn't get a shot to do a lot of this. And I had to deal with some other stuff in the afternoon after I worked. So all told, maybe I've been able to squeeze in an hour or two of doing a little research about what my options for replacing the computers are. So what I'm thinking here is just looking at the basic price. I've got this monitor. If I get a desktop computer, I can get a desktop with similar stats to that laptop I don't have a new laptop yet. What I'm looking at right now is, like, I don't think I want to buy from a store, because what I've seen a lot of stuff at stores, there's a markup on them that's expensive. I'm looking at Amazon right now specifically for my options. I was looking at some laptops and finding a laptop with most of the same stats as what I had on that busted laptop. You're talking about a $500 purchase. And I'm not really in the place to throw around $500 like that, especially if we're looking at potential economic problems coming down the pipeline because of COVID-19 and that sort of stuff. So I'm sort of really just trying to figure out what's the bare minimum that I need to make this work. And looking at the laptops, I could find a sort of a price range of about $300 to $400. That would be a step down from that one. Or the thing I was looking at earlier was to replace the hard drive in that one. For like 50 to 80 bucks, I can get a new hard drive, a 1 terabit hard drive that I can slot in to replace the one that blew out on me. Now, here's the question. I've had that for a year and 3 months, I think. And it blew out its hard drive. I'm almost certain there's a loose connection for the plug, the power plug-in, because periodically when I'm trying to use it on my lap with the power plug-in, it beeps like it's disconnected from power and then beeps again as it reconnects to power. And I'm not super excited about that problem. And so I'm like, I don't want to sink a lot of money into rebuilding that one only to have it fail 4 months later. But 50 to 80 bucks to put in a new terabit drive, to replace it, that's not too bad to fix that one up. Again, you're starting from scratch, and if I do a hard drive install on that, it's not going to have Windows. I may see if I can get a couple of my friends to help me install an Ubuntu on it and see what we can do from that. But one of the things I was looking at, so replacing it would be more expensive than I want it to be. Replacing the hard drive is a reasonably cheap, like it's a day's pay kind of situation. And it's probably less than a day's pay. So, I mean, a few hours at work, and I could replace that hard drive. So I might just grab a hard drive and replace that and put some Ubuntu on it and see what I can do with it. But at the same time, I noticed, and I don't know if it's brilliant marketing or if it's just stupid failure on somebody's part that made it work out on my part, was looking on Amazon, doing a search for laptops with some of the specs that I wanted. At the top of the list were desktop computers that met those stats for way cheaper than the laptops. So I was looking at a couple of the desktop computers. The laptop that blew out its hard drive had about a 3.3. Actually, let me grab it, see if I can. It's sort of like, if we can believe the stickers on it, the stickers say it's a Acer Aspire 3 with 12 gigabytes of DDR4 memory and 1,000 gigabyte hard drive, or a terabyte drive was what was installed in it. AMD Radeon R5 graphics. So it sounds like that's a additional graphics card. I don't know that I need that necessarily for a lot of what I'm doing, but I don't know if that's something I may need for video editing. In the meantime, the one that I'm using right now, I can use for most of my editing needs. But this is an AMD dual-core A9 with turbo core technology, up to 3.6 gigahertz processor. Now, I can get a similar processor, similar RAM, and similar hard drive. I don't know about the graphics card. I'll have to see about that, but I can get almost all of those features in a desktop that has a keyboard, mouse, the desktop, no monitor, but I can get all of those features for about $180, which is a way better deal than $500 for replacing this beast. So what I'm thinking might be a possibility is, for like $180, get a functional desktop, because I use it predominantly here at the house anyway. Get a functional desktop that I can use for what I would use this for, and then use some of the additional money, so $180, put another $40 to $60 maybe into a replacement hard drive for this one. I might be able to get this one up and running, and a desktop computer that can meet some of the needs, share some of the load. And I'm thinking that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. There is a sort of a part of me that is looking at a few other options, but they're sort of like pipe dream options. I had a few years ago, I think the last time I was looking at replacing a laptop with that one, there's Lenovo did a series of computers called Yoga Pads. They're like a 2-in-1. So they're like a tablet and a laptop. This one had a feature where it was a sort of like a touch screen keyboard. So it's like you hit a button and it lights up the keys and you type on those, but it's just a screen that you're typing on, and then the screen above it. So it's like a book. It opens up like a laptop. This side is a screen. This side is a keyboard, or you hit that button, turn that keyboard off, and it's a drawing tablet. And there's a part of me that really wants to do that. But they're like, the cheapest one I can find is about $500. I'm not doing that right now. But the idea still is there. I kind of want to do that at some point. But I do think getting the desktop to replace the functionality and uses of that laptop, while also getting a hard drive to swap into that, and giving me the option of having two functional computers. And in the meantime, if I can get the desktop up and running and slot it in place to do what this one does, I might be able to spend a little bit of time repairing the screen on this one, so that I could potentially have 3 functional computers. And if we take it a little bit further, I do have the this is a Windows 8. That's no. Yes, I believe this is Windows 8.1. Is it an 8.1 or Windows 10? I may have updated. I think this is 10. The laptop that blew its hard drive is also a 10. The one that blew its heating system or cooling system, I have a replacement cooling system that I could potentially use for it. That, I believe, is an 8.1. I think that's what the situation is with that. And I just dropped something. Okay, so I could theoretically have a desktop and 3 laptops functioning by the end of the, well, by the end of the summer at least. I could have potentially a desktop and 3 laptops functioning in enough of a way that I could do a lot more than I'm currently able to do. And hopefully with 2 or 3 terabyte drives and an external terabyte drive, I have enough space to redundantly back everything up regularly. So I'm gonna try to do a monthly backup. I'm gonna try to get that into my way of thinking, because at that point, a loss is a loss of a month rather than 3 years of content. I'm not gonna lie, I'm deathly afraid of plugging in my external hard drive into anything, because I don't want to break it. Now, if I turn over the laptop that just blew its hard drive, if I turn that into an Ubuntu, a Linux computer, it's not likely to be compatible with my external hard drive. But this one that I'm on right now should be compatible. The desktop that I end up getting should be compatible with it. I'm still going to be super nervous about plugging it into the new desktop, but if I remember correctly, it has successfully worked with this one. So that may be my bridge. I may end up getting another backup external hard drive, depending on the price, and using that specifically to hook it up to the desktop that I might end up getting. So each will have their specific external hard drive for extra storage space. And I can shuffle files around by sending them to myself. And I can use thumb drives and whatnot to move individual things from one computer to another. Like a gigabyte thumb drive should take pretty much most of everything I need to do. So I think that's probably where I'm going to end up going. But I'm also hopeful that if I purchase the desktop units that I've been looking at, they're cheap enough. I hope they work well. And if they do a decent job of what they're doing, I won't have to replace them in a year. And once it's up and running, I may be able to set up the camera and the mic on a somewhat more permanent arrangement so that I can do top-down demonstration videos for my other channel. So I'm hoping that this is an opportunity for me to be able to change a few things up and do something a little bit different and a little bit better, hopefully. Right now, I had to swap out that chair because in addition to my hard drive crapping itself, the chair that I've been using, the legs have started to, like some of the screws that anchored it tore out. And so my chair was starting to collapse. It's just like, it's been a mess. I don't have a tablet, and like the closest I have to a tablet was a Kindle Fire. And the Lenovo Yoga pads that I looked at were really neat because it was like a book. It was almost like almost like a graphic novel. They're very thin. They were like this wide when stacked top to bottom. And so when you open them, it's literally like a thick piece of cardboard. One side is a touch screen and the other side is a touch pad that turns into a keyboard. The thing I really liked about it, and part of the reason I kind of wanted to do it, was it ran on Android. So that was the operating system. You could use it. I think they also had the option of like a Windows Lite or a Linux Lite. I can't remember. But the opportunity to use the pen, they had like a ballpoint pen insert that you could do, and then you could clip paper to the sketch pad, the touch pad, and write on the touchpad, like write on paper on the touchpad, and whatever you wrote on the paper went into the digital realm because the insert that you put into the pen was allowing the touchpad to perceive it as if it were touching the surface, but you're writing on a piece of paper. So I could literally sit there and sketch on paper with the pen and make digital files that I could then alter in Photoshop or GIMP or Inkscape. And that really appeals to me. But I feel like $500 minimum entry just for that thing. I think I could probably get a drawing tablet to hook up to my desktop when I get it for $100. So I probably could work around that easily enough. I may have to do a little hunting to find a drawing tab that can let me draw on paper and it would perceive it onto the digital spectrum. I think the other thing about the yoga pad that I was curious about was it has two cameras. It has a back-facing, it's like a phone, really. It's like a giant phone turned into a laptop. And so the backside has like a 5-megapixel camera. No, I think the front was the 5-megapixel, and I think the back had a high-definition camera. So you had a front-facing and a back-facing camera. So I could do meetings or work with other people, and it would record their face, and then I could use something like OBS if it ran on Android. I don't think OBS runs on Android. And then swap visual back and forth. And so there's a part of me was sort of like, yeah, I kind of like the features that offers. And for such a tiny little device, I think it had a couple, I think it had like 30 gigabyte hard drive, solid state drive storage. I think it had like 8 to 16 RAM, and its processor was decent. I mean, it wasn't a 3.3 gigahertz processor or anything like that, but yeah, many of my tech geek friends have done some very strange things with their tech. I had a friend who, for a long time, didn't have a phone. He used to work in a phone repair station, but he got to the point where he just didn't want to have a phone anymore. So he got some of those apps that let you do phone calls on your laptop, and so he had his laptop and he'd hook into the Wi-Fi at the makerspace. I remember one time he wanted to order pizza for a gathering we were doing. And so you had him holding his laptop in one hand and talking into it and listening to it like it's a phone, but it's this giant fold in half laptop. It's just like, just get a phone, dude. You use it enough like a phone. You should just get a phone. But I mean, honestly, it was, I should be one to talk. I have that ratty piece of crap phone that I have. And maybe that's something I can look into doing something different. Maybe I should get the desktop, get the hard drive replacement for that laptop, fix up this one and fix up the other laptop. I think all told, that's probably going to run me $250, $280 at the most to get it all fixed and running. And if that's the case, I could maybe throw in a little money and upgrade my phone. And if I get an upgraded phone, I want one with a decent camera in it that I could use as a portable camera for recording video and still pictures. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's at least a little bit of an opportunity in what's happened. I know that I'm going to lament some of the things I lost over the next 6 or so months, and I'm going to have to put in hours and days and weeks of work to rebuild some of the things I lost. I'm not super excited about that, but it is what it is. I will see what I can do with what I got. And I'm hoping that this is something that opens up new chances and opportunities, but it still hurts. It still stings a little bit. But I mean, there's literally nothing I can do. I spent a fair amount of my time after video last night trying to see if I could go back in and recover it. I had rebuilt a Windows 10 external boot, and it doesn't let me get to the desktop. It never lets me get to the desktop. So it doesn't recognize that the device is plugged in. So the hard drive is not recognizable. And it makes a horrendous grinding noise when it's trying to load it. So I'm pretty sure I will probably... I'm not spending $500 to try to recoup stuff on there. What I end up getting off of there, I will never get $500 value from. So it's not worth the money to pay somebody to try to recoup it, because I'm almost going to guarantee you that the surface of those platters is shredded. Because the screeching I hear, the noise, that's not a good sign for the surface of those platters. The data is gone. The data is just destroyed at that point. I might crack it open and see if it is as bad as I imagine it will be. If it's not, if it looks pristine and functional, maybe at some point I will look into seeing if we can get it restored. But I mean, at this point, that's a lot more work than is necessary. So I think at the point, what I'm looking at is replacing the hard drive, getting a desktop, a cheap desk, like cheap as I can go, desktop with at least comparable features. I have to look into the external graphics card, or not external, but additional graphics card. But even without that, I would imagine it would probably do okay. And for less than $200, it's probably worth it. And so I can see about doing the desktop, replace the hard drive, because I think in the long run, the graphics card is maybe what makes this work right here. I think this laptop here has a graphics card as well. And I think it makes it possible for me to live stream, but I don't have to do things that way all the time. So I don't know how well it'll hand up to video editing. This can edit, and if I can get a replacement hard drive for that one, theoretically that can edit. We'll see how it does if it's on Linux. I don't know if I have a lot of editing options for Linux. But for what it is, I think I could probably get a fair amount achieved that way. It's going to take a little work to get everything right. But I think I can at least recoup where I was. There are a few things I'm going to have to rebuild. But in the meantime, I think that's probably it for tonight. I will do a little research tonight on the graphics card. And by the way, can you hear the AC running, the air conditioning? Because that's one of the things I kind of want to know, is does it distort the sound in any way? Does the air blowing over the mic, can you hear that? And can you hear the hum or the drone of it in the background? If you can't, then I'm hopeful for the hot times during the summer. Otherwise, any live videos or video recordings, I'm going to have to turn it off for however long I do my videos. So I'll probably give a listen to this afterwards. Yeah, so I mean, I think we're probably okay, because this does a really decent job of noise cancellation, the mic you sent me. So we'll probably do all right. All right. I guess I'll try to come back on tomorrow, trying to get back on track for creating projects and doing stuff. I think it's going to take a week or two for any computer that I order to get here. So here's hoping this one doesn't crap out on me, or the world doesn't end. You know, it is 2020 after all. God, what a year. It's just been a mess. All right. So I will call it a night here, and I will catch you tomorrow. Until then, take care. Have a good night. Oop, nope. That's definitely not how that. Oh, don't freeze up on me. All right. Here's hoping we're all here tomorrow. May the